The announcement came during the toast at my college graduation party. I was standing in the corner of our backyard, watching my parents' friends celebrate what they clearly saw as a double victory: my graduation and my departure from the family home. "Before we celebrate our daughter's achievement," Dad said, raising his glass of champagne, "Linda and I have another announcement. Alexandra is finally moving out tomorrow." The crowd of about 30 people burst into applause and laughter. Mom beamed as she added, "After 22 years we're getting our house back." More laughter. Someone shouted, "Freedom at last." Another voice called out, "Empty nesters." Dad grinned widely. Finally, some peace and quiet. No more weird business calls at all hours, no more mysterious packages, no more whatever it is she does on that computer all day. I smiled politely and walked away from the crowd, heading inside to the kitchen. Nobody followed me. Nobody asked if I was okay. They were too busy celebrating my departure. What they didn't know was that I'd been planning this moment for 3 years. Ever since I discovered exactly how much my parents resented having me around, despite all their public displays of parental pride. What they definitely didn't know was that I owned the mortgage on the house they were so eager to have to themselves. Let me explain how a 22-year-old college student came to own her parents' mortgage. It started during my sophomore year when my parents were facing foreclosure on their $280,000 home. They thought I didn't know about their money problems, but I knew everything. Dad's construction business had lost several major contracts, and Mom's part-time bookkeeping work wasn't covering their lifestyle. What they didn't know was that I'd been running Phoenix Digital Solutions since my freshman year. While they assumed I was just playing around on the computer, I was actually managing social media campaigns for 15 businesses and pulling in $8,000 a month in profit. My parents never asked about my work beyond polite dinner conversation. When they saw checks in the mail, I told them they were freelance web design projects, which was technically true. They assumed I was making maybe $500 a month for spending money. In reality, I was banking $6,000 a month after expenses. When I discovered they were facing foreclosure, I contacted their mortgage company, Pinnacle Financial, and made them an offer. I would purchase their mortgage debt at a discount for $210,000 cash. Pinnacle was thrilled to get their money back immediately. My parents never knew the transaction had occurred. They just knew that suddenly the threatening letters stopped and their foreclosure proceedings disappeared. From that point forward, every mortgage payment they made went directly to me through a management company I'd set up. They thought they were still paying Pinnacle Financial. In reality, they were paying their daughter. I never intended to use this information against them. I bought their mortgage to save their house, not to control them. But over the past year, as their resentment toward me became more obvious, I began to see it differently. The weird business calls at all hours Dad mentioned in his toast were actually client calls from Phoenix Digital Solutions. By my senior year, I was managing campaigns for 37 businesses and generating $35,000 monthly revenue. The mysterious packages were equipment deliveries and product samples from clients. The time I spent on my computer, all day, was running a business that generated more income than both of my parents' jobs combined. But to them, I was just their unemployed daughter who couldn't wait to move out and start real life. The truth was, I'd been living my real life for 4 years. I owned a successful business, had $180,000 in savings, and held the mortgage on the house they wanted me to leave so desperately. After Dad's toast, I spent the rest of the party listening to their friends share stories about how wonderful it would be when their own children moved out. Several people offered unsolicited advice about launching me into independence. "Don't let her get too comfortable," Mrs. Peterson from next door advised. "These kids today expect to live with their parents forever." Mom nodded enthusiastically. "Oh, we made it very clear that this is a one-way trip. Once she's out, she's out." I smiled and nodded along, mentally calculating how much notice I'd need to give them before calling in their mortgage. The party ended around 9 p.m. I went upstairs to finish packing while my parents cleaned up and called their friends to continue celebrating. I could hear them through my bedroom window. "I can't believe we finally did it," Mom was saying to someone on the phone. 22 years of supporting her, and now she's finally someone else's problem. "The best part," Dad added, "is that she doesn't expect any help from us going forward. We're completely off the hook." Before going to bed, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to Patricia Williams, the property manager who handled my parents' mortgage payments. "Patricia, it's Alexandra. I need you to prepare eviction paperwork for 1247 Maple Street. The Torres property? Are they behind on payments? No, but they will be. As of tomorrow, their lease is terminated due to violations of occupancy agreements. The second call was to my moving company, confirming they'd arrive at 7 a.m. to collect my remaining boxes. The third call was to David Martinez, my attorney who specialized in real estate law. David, I need you to prepare legal documentation for a property reclamation. The tenants will be receiving notice tomorrow morning. Alexandra, are you sure about this? Once you start legal proceedings against family members, there's no going back. I'm sure. They made their position very clear tonight. I woke up at 6 a.m. to the sound of my moving truck pulling into the driveway. My parents were still asleep, probably exhausted from their celebration. At 7:30 a.m., just as I was about to leave, there was a knock at the front door. I answered it to find a professional-looking woman in a business suit. Are you Alexandra Torres? Yes. I'm Jennifer Rodriguez from Martinez and Associates Legal Services. I have some documents that need to be delivered to the property owners. Perfect timing. I could hear my parents stirring upstairs. What kind of documents? I asked loud enough for them to hear. Eviction notices and property reclamation paperwork. Dad's voice carried down from upstairs. Alexandra? Who's at the door? Someone from a law firm, Dad. They have paperwork about the house. I heard rapid footsteps on the stairs. Dad appeared in the doorway wearing his bathrobe, looking confused and slightly panicked. What's this about? He asked Jennifer. Are you Richard Torres? Yes. And Linda Torres? Mom had appeared behind Dad, also in her bathrobe. That's me. What's going on? Jennifer handed them a folder. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. The property owner is reclaiming the residence due to lease violations. My parents stared at the papers in complete bewilderment. There must be some mistake, Mom said. We own this house. We've been paying the mortgage for 15 years. Jennifer consulted her clipboard. According to our records, the mortgage was purchased by Phoenix Holdings 3 years ago. You've been tenants since then. Dad looked up from the papers. Phoenix Holdings? I've never heard of Phoenix Holdings. I cleared my throat. Actually, Dad, you have heard of Phoenix Holdings. You just didn't know it. They both turned to look at me. Phoenix Holdings is my company. I've owned your mortgage for 3 years. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see them trying to process this information and failing completely. That's impossible, Mom whispered. You're a college student. I'm also a business owner. And as of this morning, I'm your former landlord. Dad was scanning the eviction notice frantically. Alexandra, this says we have 30 days to leave our own house. It's not your house, Dad. It's my house. You've been renting it from me since my sophomore year, though you didn't know it. But we make mortgage payments. To Phoenix Holdings. Through a property management company. Those payments have been coming to me. Mom sank into a chair, still staring at the papers. I don't understand any of this. Jennifer stepped forward. If you have questions about the legal proceedings, you can contact our office. But the eviction notice is valid and enforceable. After she left, my parents and I stood in awkward silence in the foyer of what they just learned was my house. Alexandra, Dad said finally, can you please explain what's happening here? It's pretty simple, Dad. 3 years ago you were facing foreclosure because your business was struggling. I had the money to buy your mortgage, so I did. I saved your house. But why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to help without making you feel bad about needing help. I thought you'd be grateful to have your family home saved, even if you didn't know who saved it. Mom looked up from the eviction notice. So why are you kicking us out now? Because last night you made it very clear how you really feel about having me around. You threw a party to celebrate getting rid of me. You told 30 people that you'd finally have peace and quiet without me. Alexandra, that was just what, Mom? Just honest? Because that's what it sounded like to me. Dad was still processing. But you're our daughter. You can't just evict us. I'm also your landlord. And you've created a hostile living environment. What does that mean? It means you've made it clear that you don't want me here, so I'm making sure you get exactly what you asked for. A house without me in it. Mom started crying. This is crazy. You can't kick us out of our own home over a party joke. It wasn't a joke, Mom. You were genuinely happy to see me go. You've been counting down the days until you could get rid of me. Now you have what you wanted. But where are we supposed to live? I picked up my purse and car keys from the hallway table. I don't know, Mom. That's not my problem anymore. You have 30 days to figure it out. Alexandra, wait, Dad called as I headed for the door. Can we talk about this? I turned back to face them. What would you like to talk about, Dad? This is our family home. We raised you here. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Of course it does. That's why I bought the mortgage when you were facing foreclosure. I wanted to preserve our family home. Then why are you taking it away from us now? Because you made it very clear that it's not really our family home. It's your home that I was temporarily allowed to occupy until you could get rid of me. Alexandra, what do you want from us? I don't want anything from you. You wanted me gone and now I'm gone. You wanted your house back and now you can have it back. You just have to buy it from me first. How much would that cost? I calculated quickly. Current market value is about $340,000. I paid $210,000 for the mortgage and you've paid me about $45,000 in rent. So you'd need to pay me $295,000 to own the house outright. Dad's face went white. We don't have that kind of money. Then I guess you'll need to find somewhere else to live. I left them standing in the foyer and drove to my new apartment downtown. For the first time in years I felt completely relaxed. No more hiding my business calls. No more pretending my income came from freelance projects. No more listening to passive-aggressive comments about my future plans. My phone started ringing around noon. First Mom, then Dad, then both of them together. I let them all go to voicemail. Over the next week, I received 17 phone calls from my parents, 12 text messages and 3 voicemails from other family members who had heard about the situation. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead I focused on work. Phoenix Digital Solutions landed 2 new major clients, and I was in negotiations for a partnership that could triple my revenue within 6 months. On Friday my attorney called with an update. Your parents have made an offer through their attorney. What kind of offer? They're proposing to purchase the property for $280,000, which is what they claim they've invested in mortgage payments over the years. I laughed. They've invested $280,000 over 15 years, but $45,000 of that has been paid to me. So they've actually invested $235,000. And that was for the privilege of living in the house, not purchasing it. So what's your counteroffer? $350,000 as previously discussed. They have until the end of the month. The following Monday I received a text from my mom. Alexandra, please just give us 5 minutes to explain. We love you and we don't want to lose you over this. I stared at the message for a long time before responding. You already lost me when you threw a party to celebrate getting rid of me. She texted back immediately. That party wasn't about celebrating getting rid of you. It was about celebrating your independence. I replied, Mom, you literally said I was your problem that was finally going away. We never said that. I realized I had something that would settle this dispute. I'd recorded Dad's toast on my phone. I sent her the audio file with a message. This is what you actually said. 10 minutes later she called me. Alexandra, she said, her voice shaking. I had no idea we sounded so terrible. That's how you really feel, Mom. The recording doesn't lie. But it's not how we really feel. We were trying to make the best of a difficult situation. What's difficult about your daughter graduating from college? Nothing. The difficult part is watching you grow up and knowing that our relationship is going to change. Our relationship was always going to change, Mom. But it didn't have to change because you pushed me away. He was crying now. Alexandra, what can we do to fix this? I don't know if you can fix it, Mom. You made it very clear how you feel about having me around. You are wanted, Alexandra. We just did a terrible job of showing it. It's too late for that now. What would it take for you to give us another chance? I thought about it. An honest conversation about why you really felt the need to celebrate getting rid of me. When could we have that conversation? Maybe after you find somewhere else to live and have some time to think about what you really want from our relationship. On day 18, I received a call from my Aunt Patricia, my father's sister. Alexandra, I just heard about what's happening. Can we talk? I explained the situation from the beginning. Buying the mortgage, saving the house, hiding my business success, and the graduation party that changed everything. Alexandra, she said finally, your parents are idiots. I laughed despite myself. They had no idea you owned a business? None. They thought I was making maybe $500 a month from freelance projects. Meanwhile, you were supporting them. In more ways than they knew. What you did was incredibly generous. But what they did at that party was inexcusable. Thank you for saying that. Would you be willing to meet with all of us? Your parents, me, your Uncle Robert? An honest conversation about what happened and how to move forward. Would my parents be willing to acknowledge what they did wrong? Honey, they know what they did wrong. They're just scared they've destroyed their relationship with you permanently. They should be scared. You're all family. This doesn't have to be the end. I considered it. I'll think about it. 2 days later, I agreed to meet at Patricia's house. We'd have an honest conversation about what had happened and whether there was a path forward. I arrived on Saturday afternoon, carrying a folder with financial documents I thought they should see. My parents were already there, looking more nervous than I'd ever seen them. Alexandra, Patricia said, thank you for coming. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. I think we should start with your parents acknowledging what they did wrong. Dad nodded. Alexandra, I owe you a massive apology. What we said at your graduation party was cruel and thoughtless. We made you feel unwanted in your own family, and that's inexcusable. Mom was crying. We were so focused on our own feelings about you growing up that we completely ignored your feelings. We treated your graduation like it was something happening to us instead of something you had accomplished. And, Dad continued, we never bothered to learn about your actual life. We made assumptions about your work and your finances without ever asking for details. I looked at them carefully. Do you understand why I bought your mortgage? To save our house when we were facing foreclosure, Mom said. That's right. I spent $210,000 of my own money to save your home because I love you and wanted to protect our family. Do you understand why I didn't tell you I own the mortgage? Because you wanted to help us without making us feel bad about needing help, Mom said. Exactly. I was trying to be considerate of your pride. I opened the folder and handed them several documents. This is Phoenix Digital Solutions' revenue report for last year. We generated $420,000 in revenue, with a profit margin of about 65%. Dad stared at the papers. $420,000? That's correct. This year we're on track to hit $650,000 in revenue. Mom looked up from the documents. You made more money last year than both of us together made in the last 3 years. Yes. And this document shows my current business contracts. I have $1.2 million in guaranteed revenue over the next 18 months. They sat in stunned silence. What do you want from your parents at this point? Uncle Robert asked. I want them to understand that respect isn't conditional on financial success. I want them to understand that family members shouldn't celebrate getting rid of each other. And I want them to think about how they would want to be treated if the roles were reversed. What would that look like practically? Patricia asked. It would look like genuine interest in my life and my work. It would look like apologies that focus on their behavior, not on how bad they feel about getting caught. And it would look like rebuilding our relationship based on mutual respect. Dad nodded. We can do that. Can you? Because for the past 4 years, you've shown no interest in my life beyond polite dinner conversation. We are proud of you, Dad said. You're proud of me now that you know I'm successful. But you weren't proud of me when you thought I was struggling. That's not true. Dad, you threw a party to celebrate getting rid of me. How is that pride? He was quiet. What would it take for you to consider giving them another chance? Patricia asked. I thought about it carefully. I'd need to see consistent changes in how they treat me and talk about me. I'd need to see genuine interest in my life and my work. And I'd need to see acknowledgement that their behavior was wrong. What about the house? Uncle Robert asked. Are you willing to sell it back to them? For fair market value, yes. $350,000. Dad winced. We don't have that kind of money available. Then you'll need to get a mortgage like any other home buyer. But we'll be paying more for our own house than it was originally worth. Dad, it's not your house anymore. You lost it to foreclosure 3 years ago. I bought it and have been maintaining it since then. If you want to own it again, you need to buy it at current market value. That seems fair, Patricia said. Mom looked up. Alexandra, if we can find a way to buy the house back, would you consider letting us start over with our relationship? I'd consider it. But our relationship is going to be different from now on. I'm not going to pretend to be struggling financially to make you feel better about yourselves. You are wanted, Dad said. Then show me. Through your actions, not just your words. We talked for another hour about practical next steps. My parents would work with a mortgage broker to see if they could qualify for a loan. I would extend their eviction deadline by 60 days. As for our relationship, we would start with weekly family dinners where they could ask me about my business and I could share what I was actually working on. One more thing, I said. I want you to apologize to everyone who was at the graduation party. What do you mean? Mom asked. I want you to tell your friends that what you said about me was wrong and that you're proud of my accomplishments. I want you to correct the narrative that I was a burden you were happy to get rid of. Dad nodded. We can do that. Good. Because if we're going to rebuild our relationship, it needs to be based on honesty. 6 weeks later, my parents secured a mortgage for $350,000 and bought their house back from me. I used the money to purchase a small office building downtown for Phoenix Digital Solutions headquarters. Our weekly family dinners have been awkward but productive. My parents ask detailed questions about my business, and I've started sharing stories about my clients and goals. They've also started treating me like an adult instead of a child they need to manage. The biggest change has been in how they talk about me to other people. Instead of introducing me as their artistic daughter who hasn't quite found her way, they now introduce me as our daughter who owns a successful digital marketing company. Last month, Dad asked if Phoenix Digital Solutions could help with marketing for his construction business. It was the first time he'd ever asked for my professional help. I said yes. Mom started taking business classes because she wants to understand more about what I do. She's also started helping with bookkeeping for some of my smaller clients. We're not back to where we were before the graduation party, and honestly, I don't want to be. Our old relationship was based on their assumption that I needed their support and guidance. Our new relationship is based on mutual respect and genuine interest in each other's lives. The eviction was extreme, but it worked. It forced all of us to confront the reality of our family dynamic and make changes. My parents learned that success comes in many forms and that their assumptions about my life were completely wrong. They learned that celebrating getting rid of family members has consequences. And they learned that respect and love need to be demonstrated through actions. I learned that sometimes you have to be willing to lose everything in order to build something better. The graduation party was supposed to celebrate my achievement and my independence. Instead, it became the catalyst for rebuilding my family on honest, respectful terms. Sometimes the best way to save a family is to be willing to lose it first.